Podcast Answer Man, episode number 110. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you an answer to a listener question that was emailed in, a topic that we've never covered before, and then after that, I'm going to share with you something I'm extremely excited about. I hope maybe some of you will be excited too. It's about a podcast webinar that I'll be doing very soon, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about it. But before I do, I would love, if nothing else, to just answer a great question that has come in. And I've talked with clients that I've consulted with in the past about this in one-on-one sessions, but it's never come up in the Podcast Answer Man for some reason. And, well, I think today is the day to cover it. And it comes from Jerry T. And Jerry emails in and says, "Hey, Cliff, perhaps this is a great discussion for Podcast Answer Man, or maybe you've already answered this question. If so, direct me to the episode and I'll listen." And, well, this will be the episode. Anyway, he says, "My question has to do with RSS feeds. Simply put, at what point do you decide to trim your RSS feed? What I mean by this is that I noticed that with your Podcast Answer Man feed, you have all of your episodes available in the RSS feed. Episodes 1 through 109. And of course, that'll be 110 with this one. But on My Crazy Life in iTunes, it only shows episodes number 296 through 395. Is there a standard which podcasters follow as to how many episodes to carry in a typical RSS feed? Or is there a limit to the number of episodes that a typical RSS readers or iTunes can handle? Now, I'm nowhere near needing to do any cleanup of my RSS feed. I wanted my listeners, new and old, to have access to all my episodes. By the way, we're only talking about 20 episodes to date." The next sentence in the email is giving me a little trouble, but anyway, it says here, "Regardless of the reasons for pruning an RSS feed down, I'm assuming that you do that versus creating a new feed and registering that feed in iTunes, etc." And that's as a question there. Then a secondary question to this would be, once you have recorded several hundred episodes and you decide to edit down the RSS feed, what do you do with the old episode files? Do you purge them from the web server for the sake of space and essentially no longer offer them for download? Or do you create a different RSS feed and perhaps only offer that feed through your website? Thanks for all your time, Jerry. All right, Jerry, here's the deal. First and foremost, let's talk about your first comment. You noticed that every single episode, including this one, all 110 episodes are available for download in the RSS feed here at podcastanswerman.com. Now, I will tell you that that's not always been the case. In fact, I had it set up in WordPress, and there's a setting when you go into WordPress, you just log in, click on settings, go to the reading tab, and then it'll ask you what limit to the number of posts that will show up in an RSS feed do you want to set. And so on Podcast Answer Man, I had always had it set to 100 episodes. And like you, back when I had 20 or so episodes, I'm like, 100 sounds good to me. So I set it for 100. And then all of a sudden, just recently, it was maybe as early as maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got an email that says, "Hey, I've downloaded all your episodes and I've been listening to them all. And the only thing is for some reason, I just can't find a way to download the first 6 episodes." And well, sure enough, it turns out that, it was showing episode number 6 through 106 or something. And so it was only showing the most recent 100 episodes. And I very quickly went into my WordPress settings and I changed it to 200 and hit save, and boom, immediately all he had to do was refresh his feed and it showed the first 6 episodes available for download. And ever since then, everybody that goes into iTunes will see that all 100 and now 10 episodes are available in the Podcast Answer Man feed. Now, first of all, I want to let you know my philosophy is for Podcast Answer Man, I want all of these shows to be free, at least for now. I've bounced back and forth on that in the past. I considered the idea of creating Podcast Answer Man as a subscription only for certain episodes and then the archives. And I've since decided, no, you know what? I want Podcast Answer Man to be my goodwill towards all podcasters as a way of saying, hey, I'm passionate about podcasting, and if you want to at least have a great sampling of the content and the information that I've gained over the years, here's this content. And hopefully when it comes time to, your need for audio equipment and also for maybe some one-on-one consulting times to help you just real quickly get something taken care of, that you'll consider me for that as a paid consultant or to sell you the equipment. And so I've kind of gone back and forth, but right now my philosophy is I want to give all the content away for free and do that as a way of my gesture saying, hey, here's a lot of content, but if you ever need anything, I would very much appreciate you considering me for buying your equipment and consulting. That's my philosophy now. So that's why I want all of my episodes to be there. Now, you talked about My Crazy Life. If you go into iTunes, that is one of about 20 other shows that I produce. If you head over to gspn.tv, you'll see a ton of other podcasts that I produce on a regular basis. And over at gspn.tv, if I log in and look at my RSS syndication there, I only offer, and I'm pulling it up right now, 15 episodes, 15 of the most recent episodes of approximately 20 other podcasts that I produce. Now, why do I only do 15 episodes there? Well, over at gspn.tv, the podcast that I produce there, we do premium subscription content. So what we do on a majority of our shows, not all of them, but a majority of all of our shows, let's just say they're mostly weekly podcasts. What we do is on the free feed, we give you one episode for free every single week. So you get one episode for free every single month. The other 3 episodes you do not get. In fact, if you have to become a Plus member or a premium subscriber to get all the episodes each month. And so the other benefit of becoming a Plus member is not only do you get every single episode, but you also get access to the entire back catalog of episode content. So in essence, when you sign up and become a Plus member, if you go to gspn.tv/plus access, of course, only our Plus members will be able to gain access to that because it is password protected with their username and password. But I'm looking right now, I have it set up so that, and let me just check here if I hit settings and then I hit on reading. In the Plus feeds, it syndicates the recent 100 episodes of all of our shows. Now, we do have several podcasts that have exceeded the 100 episodes, but honestly, nobody's really said, hey, Cliff, is there any way that I could have access to, the first 300 episodes of My Crazy Life? If they are still accessible via the website, but they're not accessible via RSS. Now, that's not a decision that I've made purposely, other than I'm going to talk about the restrictions on the size of RSS feeds in just a moment. But if somebody were to email me and say, hey, Cliff, I'd really like to be able to download all 390 episodes of My Crazy Life, is there a way I can do that? Well, I can go in there very quickly, very easily, change that to 300 in the RSS, or 400, and let people, let that person go in and refresh his feed, and then I could change it right back, and hopefully all of the people who have been subscribed won't see all of a sudden in their RSS feed, a couple hundred new episodes that they could download. So anyway, there's very little as far as any standard goes, but I've decided on GSPN, all of our main shows, 15 was a great number of episodes to show in the podcast feed because at least that gives them plenty to look at as far as to sample the individual shows that we do. And even though I'm only releasing one episode per week of many of our shows, there are still 15 episodes to check out. Now, those episodes, they're missing, 3 episodes in between each episode, but at least they're still able to test it out, and that's why I offer that many. And if they want more, they become a Plus member. And so that's kind of how that works. Now, as far as is there some kind of limitation, technically speaking, the only limitation that you have is the size of your RSS feed. Now, what you may or may not understand is that your RSS feed is a single file. Typically, and now I'm not familiar with all the different standards. I mean, they're always coming out. There's the new Atom, syndication feed, and there's all this other stuff that's out there. But as far as I know, all of the feeds still are a document, and it all started out with XML. It's an XML formatted document that has all the text, and all the information, all the titles and posts and stuff. It's all in there. And so if you can imagine, even though it's a text file, the files are relatively small. If you start having 400 episodes of blog posts, and those are all text written, that file, that text file is going to grow in size. Even though it's text, it's still going to grow. So what happens is there is the possibility that you could max out the size of your XML file. Now, for example, many people use website hosting solutions where the default setting disallows any program to upload or create a file greater than 2 megabytes in PHP. Now, that may be a little too technical for some, and it's probably not technical enough for some. So just trust me when I say that there's, by default, there's some functionality that says, hey, you can't create we're not going to allow WordPress to create an XML file that's greater than 2 megabytes in size. Now, 2 megabytes is not huge, but still, that's a lot of text. So technically speaking, I should be able to, as long as I'm not putting like 15 pages worth of text in every post for 500 posts, I should be able to, if it's, very, very typical standard blog entry, I should be able to put 500 blog posts in an RSS feed and it still not exceed that 200. However, anything's possible, and so back in the day, there used to be a lot of issues. In fact, there were some RSS readers that wouldn't be able to read RSS feeds of a certain size. In fact, I remember in the early days of podcasting, when iTunes came out, there was if your RSS feed was above a certain size, and I can't remember what it was. It may have been 2 megabytes as well. But if your RSS feed was greater than a certain size, then it would start giving iTunes errors. And other podcatching software programs had the same deal. So back then, I remember hearing people talk about, hey, you don't want to put all 394 episodes of your podcast in your RSS feed. You want to limit that maybe to 50 or 150 or something like that. Well, to be honest with you, these days I haven't really had anybody ask about it and anybody having an issue. And I have at times put all 400. Now, for me, I have this thing called the gspn.tv all-inclusive feed. And actually, if you even go over to the gspn.tv Plus member only feed, that is every piece of content I've ever produced. Over 1,400 episodes. And if I'm not mistaken, I've never tried it before, but if I put all of those into one RSS feed, technically speaking, I can't imagine it not working. But here's my suggestion. If you want your subscribers to get all of your content, my suggestion is to go ahead and if you have well under 100 episodes produced right now, then put your limit at 100. And if you have if you have more than 100 but under well under 200, set it to 200 and keep going. And then all of a sudden, here's the deal. if you get into 500, if you got over 500 episodes and all of a sudden people are complaining, it's like, hey, for some reason your RSS feed's not working, then you know that one of the things you might want to look at is reducing the amount of episodes that go into your RSS feed or that you allow to syndicate through your RSS feed. Now, that being said, I'm a huge fan that if you have free content and all of it's free and you're not doing premium subscription, I love when I can subscribe to a podcast and have access to all the content. I just did that to a podcast called fitnessrocks.org. I went into iTunes and they had 100 and hold on, I'll tell you, I've got it right here. And looking up, scrolling up through the list, has 139 episodes. And so most recent episode is episode number 139. Heard a lot of great things about this podcast, and I went and downloaded episode 1, which was available in the thing, in the RSS feed. And oddly enough, it's not available on his site. So his RSS feed's being fed somewhere other than the site he's currently using, which is a possibility, and we're not going to go into that here. But anyway, I downloaded episode 1. I loved it. Downloaded episode number 2 and 3. Loved them. And then I finally clicked on the Get All. And believe it or not, it took about an hour and a half, but I now have downloaded all 139 episodes of a podcast. And it always weirded me out every time somebody said, "Hey, I just found out about your podcast, Answer Man. And by the way, I just listened to 35 of your episodes last week, and I should be caught up on all of them by the end of next week." And I'm like, really? Seriously? But I totally get that, because there are some podcasts that I'm listening to that I get the same way about. So that explains the first part of your question. Why is Podcast Answer Man showing all of them, but My Crazy Life only 15? And so that should answer your question there. Now, as far as, the next part of your question, regardless of the reasons of pruning an RSS feed down, I'm assuming that you have to create a new feed and register that feed to iTunes. Now, technically, I have never had even when I put 200 episodes into the RSS feed, iTunes showed them all. So it's not a deal there. In fact, if you look into iTunes on Podcast Answer Man, it should show after this one's released all 110 episodes there. So let's go on to the secondary part of your question, because I think that I have an unintended answer. That really leads this to a different discussion altogether. A secondary question is, once you have recorded several hundred episodes and you decide to edit down the feed to where it only has so many, what do you do with the old episode files? Do you purge them from the server? Well, first of all, I wouldn't. Unless you're running out of disk space, which you shouldn't be. But if you're not running out of disk space, there's no reason to delete those. And certainly you don't want to delete the. Here's the deal. Every post that you have on your site, you should be indexed in Google. And maybe I podcasted it. In fact, if you do me a favor, go into Google right now, if you're in front of a computer, and do this. Go to google.com. In fact, I'm going to do it right now. Google.com. And I find that I probably get about 60 new visitors to my site every day on this term. So google.com, type in the word, we're going to type in 2 words, and this you have to type it in this exact way, and this is the technical way to type it in, by the way. Type in the word mixer, and then space, and then type in MIX hyphen MINUS. This is the mixer mix minus. This is the technical term of how we do effective Skype calls and stuff like that using a mixer and stuff like that. But a lot of people are beginning to understand that they want to do co-hosted Skype calls, and they can't get rid of that echo when they try to hook it up. It's just not making sense to them. Finally, they are able to find out that the issue is that they need to do this thing called a mixer mix minus. And people are Googling. So if you type in mixer space MIX hyphen minus MINUS, hit Google search and check it out. You will see Podcast Answer Man all through the results there. In fact, I think I put that video out all over the place. But the fourth one down is the actual episode 39 of Podcast Answer Man, which takes you to my site and that blog post. So if I were to delete that content or even just delete the file, the problem is that somebody found me on Google looking for this information. And by golly, not only do I want the post to still be there, but I want the MP3 or the video file to also be there. Because, and matter of fact, episode 39 generates business for me as a podcast consultant. Even to this day, I get phone calls where people say, hey, I just saw your Mixer Mix Minus video. I found it on Google, and it looks great. Everything you said makes sense. I still have no idea how to set it up. Can I hire you for a couple hours, for 2 hours of consulting? I got a ton of other questions I want to ask you, but will you walk me through how to set this up? And so, yeah, I would not delete any content from your archives unless there's some other reason you want. Space should not be an issue, but yeah, definitely don't delete them off. He says, so Jerry asks, so do you create a different RSS feed? Perhaps, only offer that feed through your website. I personally suggest that people only keep one RSS feed if at all possible. And you want to avoid feed confusion. In fact, if you go to gspn.tv/subscribe, you'll see I've got feeds all over the place. But I make it as easy as possible. If you actually go to gspn.tv and then click under the heading of the different types of podcasts, and you go to any of them, you'll find that every single post has a link to the RSS feed. In fact, Podcast Answer Man also has that. So if you go to podcastanswerman.com, you'll see the show notes for episode number 110 has a link for Zune for iTunes and also for the RSS feed. Every post has the link to it. But if I wouldn't want to put, here's the link to the most recent 50 episodes, here's the link to all of them. People already are a little confused as to what RSS feeds are and what subscribing is, and you don't want to confuse your listeners. If at all possible, try to make all of it available in your RSS feed if that's what you want to do. If you're like me and you have 390 some odd episodes of a podcast, well, go ahead and just limit it to 200 and tell people, you know what, if you want the other, if you want access to the old stuff, that we could maybe turn on the RSS feed for you for just a little bit, have you refresh it, get those up, get it to download all the information about those, and then switch it right back. Or you could just tell them, hey, if you go through the site, you listen to it through the site, it's still there. It's just not in the RSS feed. That's a preferable option. And then there are some people, believe it or not, that sell content. They sell CDs or DVDs with their old content. CDs, it's hard to do because even if it's MP3s, you can very quickly burn through an old CD, even in data format. So DVDs, but then, gosh, I'm limited to 4.0 gigs, some odd gigs. I'm looking at my podcast folder right now, my podcast archives, and I have 60 gigabytes worth of audio content in my archives. So if people wanted to buy the entire collection at 4.7 gigs or something, whatever a DVD has, we're talking about a massive pack of DVDs. But anyway, I digress. But hopefully that answers your question, Jerry. There is no standard. My personal philosophy is, if you have a free podcast, put as many as you can in there. And you don't have to worry about anything for quite some time. And so that will do it. All right. So that is the content of the week. That is a great question and one that has not ever been covered here on Podcast Answer Man until now. But I do want to let you guys know. Now, at the end of the last episode, I told you that I created a brand new newsletter. Not a newsletter, but a mailing list for Podcast Answer Man. And I want to say thank you to all of you who registered. I think we registered, almost 76 people within the first day of launching that list. So those of you who are on the list, you probably have already received the email about what I'm about to share. But if you don't mind, I would love to have this opportunity to sell you on this webinar that I'm doing. Now, if that turns you off, then go ahead and turn me off. That's cool. But if you don't mind, hear me out for just a moment. What the number one thing that people beg of me to share is, can you share with me your entire equipment setup and your workflow? How do you produce so many podcasts? If you're not aware of this, I produce anywhere between 15 to 25 podcast episodes per week here from this studio. And these aren't for other people. These are these shows are my own shows that I do with my wife or by myself. So, well, with the exception of my wife. She does a show called Stephanie Unplugged, and it's just her show. And she has another show, Full-Time Mom, and it's her and her best friend. But it's our content. And so 15 to 20, and people are like, how do you produce so many shows? I mean, you figure you're putting content in them, as far as I put in time and energy and thinking about what I'm going to share. And then there's the recording process, there's post-production, and then there's tagging the file, there's uploading it, there's releasing it. And by the way, did I mention that all of our content is posted on either 2 or 3 WordPress installations? So how do I do it all? What programs, what software do I use? These are the questions people are asking me all the time. Well, I've decided to do a podcast production setup and workflow webinar, and I want to invite you to come and participate. Let me share with you just a little bit about what I'll be covering. As far as my equipment setup, you'll get to see exactly what equipment I'm currently using. In fact, the equipment list over at podcastanswerman.com is a little bit outdated, and I really need to get in there and fix that sometime. But honestly, I'm so busy with consulting and equipment sales right now that it may be sometime. But anyway, you'll get to see exactly what equipment I'm currently using. You'll get to see exactly how I have it all set up, what cables and wires are going to go there. And not only that, but I'm going to be putting all that stuff together in a diagram and showing you just real simple, easy to understand, easy to see format. And by the way, you'll be seeing my screen through the whole process. And not just a slideshow either. I'm going to be giving you hands-on demonstration of what this software looks like and how you carry out certain things when we get to it. You'll get to learn what computers I use in my studio and what I'm using each computer for. You'll learn about the various software programs that I'm using to go through the production process, and I'll even demonstrate several different kinds. All right, next up, my pre-production setup process. You'll learn about the file formats that I use, whether MP3, AAC, or WAV recording. You'll get to learn about what sample rates I use, what bit rates I use, why I use them, which different bit rates I use for different recordings and what scenarios work. You'll learn where I get my audio clips from, the music and the audio clips and bumpers and stuff. I'll be sharing that. You'll learn how I organize all of my audio clips so that I can hit voicemails and stuff right in the proper order for my show. You'll learn the various techniques for organizing show notes and keeping track and putting all the audio feedback in the various places for all the different shows that I produce. So you're going to see a lot about my pre-production process. Also, I'm going to share my recording process, just your normal, everyday show, kind of like Podcast Answer Man. There's no live audience listening to me right now or watching me right now. And you're going to learn how it is that I simply hit the record button, start talking, hit the play button, and the music's playing. I start talking, fade down the music, fade up the music at the end, and hit stop on the record button, and boom, it's out. This podcast, after I hit the stop button, this podcast episode will be on podcastanswerman.com, gspn.tv, and gspn.tv Plus within 10 minutes of me hitting the stop button. I'm done with it as soon as I'm finished. So I'll be sharing that process. Not only that, but I'm also going to share with you the process of the additional steps of doing the live show using Ustream and how, what I'm using to broadcast the audio and video. You'll learn about the chat room software that I use and why I use what I use. You'll learn how I take in live calls, both individually one at a time or having an entire audience of people that can, basically come in on a conference call. You'll learn how I do that and what I'm using. I'll be sharing with you the additional things that must be kept in mind when you're doing a live show, the benefits of doing a live show, and also the drawbacks of doing a live show. Then I'll show you my post-production process. You'll get to see the steps that I perform on the audio file after it's been recording. You may be surprised at what I do or don't do. I'll show you how I do it using the program that I use regularly, and I'll also show you the free version of Audacity and show you the difference and why I do one above the other. And the demonstration on that usually blows away all my clients. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to save money for that other program, which is Adobe Audition, by the way. You'll learn the software that I process and use for meta tags, the album artwork, and how I add all that stuff in. I'll talk about the lyrics tag and why you should be putting stuff in the lyrics tag. And if you're not, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to reach all those millions of people with iPod touches and iPhones. You'll learn my step-by-step process on how I post the file to my site after uploading it to a media host, and just lots of things there. Now, you may be hearing some knocking in the background, and that's because my 4-year-old daughter's in the backyard thinking she's cute and clever, and she's trying to get my attention and running away. But anyway, that being what it is, here's a couple things to consider about this webinar. During the session, first of all, the session is going to be limited. No more than 12 people will be in attendance into this webinar. So the reason why I'm keeping it down is intentional. I want to establish and build relationships with the people out there. I want to make sure that I have time to answer your questions as we go along. And see, that's the thing. You'll have the ability to ask questions as we go. Not only that, but I know that some of you are using Windows, some of you are using Mac. I use both. And so I'll give you some software solutions and tell you some alternatives and ways of doing things that you can do on both. In fact, I have the ability in the webinar to switch from showing you my PC screen, and then I'll switch over and I'll show you my Mac screen, and I can show you how things are done if those kind of questions arise. Now, a side benefit of being a part of a Podcast Answer Man webinar, and I know this from experience, is the relationships that you are going to form with the other people in the session. And let me tell you, if you haven't listened yet, go back to marketing your podcast. The biggest and best way to ever market your podcast is through community and relationships with other podcasting communities and podcasters. And so I will tell you that I have done webinars in the past. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think the testimonials are still out there. Let me just go to podcastanswerman.com/webinar. If I'm not mistaken, I took the link off the page because I haven't done these in so long. But anyway, gspn.tv/webinar, and I'll put a link back up on the site on this thing. Here are some quotes from another thing. Nicole says, thanks again. That was probably the best 2 hours I've spent in a long time. Thank you so much for both climbing the learning curve before me and imparting such great knowledge. Really helpful. Thank you and that was from Nicole Hamilton. Stephen Cross says, thank you for the great webinar last night. You spent more time and provided more information than I expected. Made the additional, fee definitely worthwhile. Oh, he says, he paid for the thing and he actually made an additional donation back in the day to gspn.tv as a result. He thought it was that worthwhile. Go to gspn.tv/webinar. You'll see some of the testimonials there. But let me explain to you, some of these people that have been in my Podcast Answer Man webinars in the past, they are very connected with each other now, and it's great to see them interact with each other on Twitter, listening to each other's shows and calling in feedback to each other's shows and talking about each other in each other's podcasts. So that's just a side benefit of this stuff. And let me tell you, relationships are everything in social media. So if for nothing else, come to this webinar and spend 2 hours with me and up to 11 other people. You don't want to miss this opportunity. Trust me. Here's another thing. First of all, I haven't told you the price yet, but let me go ahead and tell you the price right now. The price for general admission is $95. It's a 2-hour webinar. I typically charge $95 an hour for my consulting right now. And so basically, you're getting 2 hours for the price of one, but you're also getting the benefit of seeing a lot of content that the most people ask for. So you're getting to see the content that I think probably matters the most to you. Not only that, but if you were to pay for consulting with me one-on-one, you get to ask me questions. But I will tell you, the last time I did a webinar, I remember people's like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought to ask that question. I so want to know the answer to that. And so you're going to have the benefit of that. So it's $95 for 2 hours. And get this, if you're a GSPN.TV Plus member and have been a Plus member for a minimum of 30 days, or let's see, actually it says 90 days. I might change that to 30. But anyway, if you've been a GSPN.TV Plus member, you get $20 off the admission. So it's only $75. So GSPN.TV Plus members, you guys are awesome. And for those of you who don't know what GSPN.TV Plus membership is, even if you have no interest in becoming a premium member, if you're a podcaster, you have to do me this favor. You have to do me this favor. Go to gspn.tv/plus, okay? And what I encourage you to do is go in there and listen to the audio testimonials. Do people pay for audio content? Will they pay for premium podcasts? I charge $10 a month for a premium podcast. And listen to the kind of feedback that I get. Check this out.
Hi, this is Christine, and I'm a Plus member at gspn.tv. One of the reasons why I became one is that I love the community. I love what Cliff and Stephanie are doing. I'm so inspired by them willing to try and step out and live a dream that how could I not support something like that? I love the interaction that I have with other Plus members. I love the Plus member extra shows. I love Stephanie Unplugged. It's something that I believe in. So why not support something like that?
All right. And there are tons of other testimonials there. Do me a favor, just go and listen to that. But here's the thing: if you are a GSPN.TV Plus member, as a way of saying thank you, you get $20 off of the membership. Now, for those of you out there listening, whether you're a Plus member or not, if you get somebody else who's not a GSPN Plus member to sign up and come to this webinar with you. So if you know somebody else that's into podcasting and you bring them along, I'll give you a $20 refund off of your membership, $20 refund off of your admission after they attend the webinar. So you get $20 off of your fee if you get other non-Plus members to sign up. And that's just an extra incentive. Not only that, but I'm also, and I don't think I have this one down, but if you guys remind me later, and I'm pretty sure I'll remember. If you sign up for this webinar, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to do other webinars. It may not be this one. And to answer your question, at this point in time, I have no desire to record this and release it later at a smaller fee. And a lot of you have already asked me that. And my philosophy on this is that I really, really believe the value in this content is in the relationships that are being formed through it, and also the interaction, the one-on-one. I really want to give you guys the personal touch, and I don't want to give you anything less than that. And not to mention the fact that we're going to be on a telephone, and I do not like releasing telephone quality audio content, if at all possible. Now, if you guys all begged me and I had 400 requests for that, then who knows? Maybe, but honestly, I really think the one-on-one, being there, or being there face to face, if you will, as much as you can be face to face in a webinar, but being there is a huge thing. But I'm going to do more of these in the future. And if you sign up and you attend this, you'll automatically get $20 off of your next webinar that you attend if you decide to attend more. And the final thing to consider here is that those who attend this webinar, you will have the option, if you want to, and it is completely an option, that you can hire me for 2 hours for the price of one for one-on-one consulting with me afterwards for up to 30 days after the session. And technically speaking, what we'll do is it has to be scheduled within 30 days. Let's just say you're not available and you don't want to meet with me until 6 weeks from now. Well, then, or 6 weeks from after the session. Well, as long as you schedule a session with me within the 30 days after the session, then you'll get 2 hours of consulting with me for the price of 1 hour. And the reason why is because I know afterwards, many of you, and I know this from the past experience, that you may want to ask some more details, or you may want to have me just install WordPress for you, or something like that, and set up a hosting account and set up WordPress and get you a standard decent looking theme and get it up and running and get you submitted to iTunes. We can do that within 2 hours. And I've done it for many people. And in fact, if you're interested, give me a call. Anyway, I really hope that, that my suspicion is true. This is what you guys have asked for time and time again, and I'm putting it out there. The date for this is going to be Saturday, May 23rd from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, for those of you who are in California on the West Coast, of course, that is 3 hours earlier from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday, May 23rd. And for the rest of you who are out there anywhere else in all the other time zones, you're invited and encouraged to come. And links to the webinar sign-up registration will be provided at podcastanswerman.com in the show notes section for this episode of the podcast, which is Podcast Answer Man number 110. All right, so I told you I was going to promote my own stuff today, and I appreciate you listening to me. I don't want to oversell it. I honestly believe that it's underpriced. I really do, but I was told the last time I did webinars. I've done several of these in the past. It's been a long time, but I was told the last time I did the webinar, Cliff, you are so undercharging for the webinar. And to be honest with you, the general admission fee before I think was $75, so I did increase it to $95. And again, Plus members, we love you and thank you, and so you get $20 off. But yeah, I really want you guys to benefit from podcasting. I really want to see you guys succeed. There's nothing I want more as a full-time podcaster, somebody that does this as a career. There's nothing I want more than to see more and more people succeed in podcasting. I don't want clients, I don't want customers, I don't want listeners who start up a podcast, get 6 episodes in, and decide, this is way too much work, this is way too much effort, this is doing nothing for me, I am burned out. That is dreadful, and there's too many of those people out there. My goal as a podcast answer man is to help you to find ways of doing your setup and your production in such a way that you can do what's really your passion, which is sharing what your topic is. If you're an author, you want to talk about books. If you're an artist, you want to talk about creating art. Art. If you're a fly fisher, fly fishing guy, you want to talk about fly fishing. If you're a real estate investor, you want to talk about real estate investing. You don't want to spend hours and hours every week producing a podcast. You want to spend maybe an hour producing a 30-minute show, and you should never have to spend more than an hour. Never more than an hour. In fact, I will tell you, this is right now, this is a 46-minute program, and like I said, pretty much I spent about 15 minutes thinking about how I was going to answer Rick's question. And, by the way, I just told you 46 minutes, but technically speaking, I'm going to edit out some of the places where I messed up on Rick's email. But I'm not going to tell you that because I am doing Rick's. See, it's Jerry. Anyway, I'm going to edit some of the places where I messed up reading his email. So it's not exactly that. But anyway, I don't know why I even felt the need to tell you that. But anyway, this podcast from beginning to end produced in less than an hour. And I'm talking about pre-production, recording, post-production, editing out those little bits because I left plenty of space in there for me to get edit points. It's going to be a piece of cake to edit this thing. Running a post-production process that makes me sound like a radio guy, and uploading it to the web after I tag it and put the album art in, put it into podcastanswerman.com, gspn.tv, and the Plus feeds. Anyway, come join the webinar. Bye.